How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 2. Oishi-san is here. For better or for worse, he is here to yet again interrogate us, try to get information out of us, and hopefully, you know, probably the only good part here, is give us some sort of information back. You know, that would be nice. Before we jump in here, as there's really not much to go back on except for in the last episode, we heard Rena's ideas as to what may have happened to the missing Sadako and Rika-chan. I did want to look at a comment that I got. I do read your guys' comments, and very rarely, I want to bring this back, I definitely do. Very rarely do I actually share the comments here on a video, because sometimes they're worth addressing and commenting on, rather than physically, you know, putting a comment on. Actually do it in a video. So, I got a comment from, what's the name here? Dapper Shinks. Now that's a name right there. So what makes Rena different this time? What is the difference between the two arcs? Well, I don't know. I guess, and I've said this before, it's just the fact that we're trusting our friends. Keiichi did not hear a lot of this stuff from Oishi-san and get led onto the idea that, you know, Higurashi is weird from an outside source. He was led to the fact that Higurashi was weird from more of an inside source, and in a weird situation, and he was also there with a friend, you know? I also just think I think I called the village Higurashi, I mean Hinamizawa, sorry. I think I had a brain fart. Or maybe I'm just completely, being stupid and thinking I said something wrong when I actually said something right. I don't know. All I know is that Rena is still Rena. Nothing has changed with her. I think it's just how Keiichi has approached things, and we're witnessing actual trust between friends, and that's just it. We're witnessing how trustful, dependable, and all that everybody is because of what's going on, which is a little different this time around. Oishi-san, what the fuck is up?
お帰りなさい、前原さん。
どうも。
ご家族はお留守みたいですね。いやはや困っていたんですよ。
He came all the way to my house? I can only thank my good fortune that my parents were absent. Since neither of them was around at this hour, they would probably be back late.
親父の仕事の関係で出かけてるんだと思います。帰りは遅いと思いますよ。
そうですか。それは好都合です。親御さんに変な思いをさせずに済みます。
Oishi-san pushed my back, prompting me to walk. It seemed like he wanted me to get into the car.
警察に連行するんですか?
I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if he wanted to investigate me. That kinda gave me a resigned feeling.
いえ、立ち話もなんですから、車の中でお話ししようってだけですよ。
Well, it does have AC.
さあ、どうぞ。
He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, then this man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse, I could only accept in good grace. Still feels forced. The inside of the car had been cooled too much by the air conditioner, and there was a rusty smell coming from the filter, which must have been cleaned only rarely.
ありゃ、冷えすぎます？切りましょうか。
He turned off the engine and it suddenly became quiet. And the voices of the Higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. Yeah. It sounded to me like a chorus of voices lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments while listening to those voices, I myself lamented. The days that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Oishi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the Higurashi. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first.
捜査の方はどうなってるんですか?
捜査？何のですか？最近はいっぱいありすぎて、どれのことやら。
全部です。
いいですよ。本当は報道管制の敷かれた秘密捜査なんですが、あなたには 特別に聞かせてあげましょ
Oh, how kind of you.
う。じゃあ最初の事件からいきます。
The freak deaths of Tomitake-san and Takano-san on the night of the Watanagashi.
こっちはお恥ずかしいかな。さっぱり進展なしです。まずは富武さん、集団で暴行を受けた形跡はあるのですが、自分の喉をかき破るなんて異常な死に方の説明がつかないんです。
Okay, so that all lines up with what happened in the first chapter.
何らかの薬物中毒を疑っているんですが、検出はされませんでした。
高野さんはどんな感じなんです？
同じくさっぱりです。焼死死体は検視が非常に困難でして、首を絞められた後にガソリンをかけられたんじゃないかと見ています。管轄がお隣の県警さんでね。あちらさん、自分たちの縄張りの事件だからってあんまり協力的じゃないんですよ。おっと、これは関係ない話ですね。
So the police didn't know anything other than the fact that the victims died inexplicably.
ですが犯行時間はおおむねお祭りが終わった直後だろうと見ています。高野さんの方はちょっとあやふやですが、富武さんとほぼ同じ時刻に殺害され、山中に遺棄されたと考えるのが妥当でしょうな。
どうしてわざわざ遠くの山まで死体を運んだんでしょう？富武さんも同じように遠くへ運べばよかったのに。
ありゃ、前原さん、あなたなかなか同期で鋭いですね。
Ah, shucks.
もちろん私もそこは注目すべき点だと思っていますよ。他にもいくつか不審点はありますが、まあ現時点でお話しできるのはこの
村長さんの方
Oh, my
は
bad.
どうですか？
Sorry.
何か手がかりはありましたか？
Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject. Otherwise, he might turn the conversation on me.
失踪された一日の足取りを調べました。手がかりになるようなものは見つかりませんでしたが、一応お話ししましょうか。
The mayor, Kichiyoro, or however you fucking pronounce his weird-ass name, Kimiyoshi. Sorry for being incompetent. Apparently he was suffering from severe hemorrhoids.
古い生まれの方って非常にプライドが高いんですよね。それで村長さん、誰にも内緒で鹿骨市内にある大学病院の肛門科に通われていたんです。失踪当日、村長さんは診察の予約が取ってあったんで、朝一で出かけられました。
Even I knew that big hospitals like university hospitals had a really long waiting time. Apparently people would get in line hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment.
診察が終わったのは午後1時頃です。その後、病院内のレストランで軽食を取られ、雑誌を読みながら時間を潰されました。この辺りのことは、自宅にあったお財布の中のレシートで分かってます。
There was nothing suspicious at all about that.
その日は夕方から神社の集会場で会合の予定があったんです。それで余裕を持ってお帰りになるはずだったんですが、途中電車で人身事故がありましてね。どうもそれで足止めを食ってしまったらしく、家に着いたのは会合の時間の直前でした。ご家族が大慌てで神社の集会場に出かけていく村長さんを目撃しています。
会合ってのは何だったんですか？確かその会合の帰り道に失踪してるんですよね。
会合は御三家と町会の主要役員が集まってのものでした。今年も起こってしまった連続開始事件の対応について協議したものと思われます。
So then on his way home, the old man who had treated Shion like his own daughter, he was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety, and yet, Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart.
あれ？
どうなさいました？
I was taken aback by how strange my own voice sounded. What was it that just surprised me? I squeezed my head with my hands to try and drag back out what I had only realized for a split second. Remember, Keiichi, my bro, you just realized something, because I know I didn't. Something important. The night of Watanagashi. That was when everything started. That night, Takano-san and Tomitake-san died. The next morning, word of the incident had spread throughout Hinamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital, and as planned, he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital, ate something, and then there was an unexpected delay on his train ride back. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From when we heard about the incident on the night of Watanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that he went to the hospital alone. He ate alone. And he got on the train alone. That all meant he had absolutely no contact with anyone else. You couldn't have even called him on the phone. Okay. But what does that mean, Keiichi Maibara? Why does that matter, Keiichi Maibara? Ah.
ゆうちゃん、私、どうしよう。
どうした？話せよ。俺たちの間で隠し事はなしだろ？
私、君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
I told him everything. I told old man Kimiyoshi everything.
村長さんに、私、あの晩、最後だに忍び込んだこと、打ち明けたんです。誰かにそれを見られてて、私たちを狙っている人がいるって。
ああ、それで？
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そして、にっこり笑って、しおちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しになんかなるものかって、本当に、笑いながら、任せなさいって。
Yes, I remember this conversation. Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand and slid down from my forehead to my nose and fell. So then, what does it mean? Hey, Keiichi Maibara, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, when did that take place exactly? Shion said that she learned of the incident from a phone call her father had made that morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning for his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride back to his house was delayed by an accident. As soon as he got home, he rushed out to the assembly hall. Then the meeting at the assembly hall began and continued until it was dark out. And then everyone left. Nobody saw him after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant Shion, come on, Shion talked with him that night, right?
前原さん、大丈夫ですか？やっぱり暑いならクーラー入れますよ。
Another part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding that I didn't think any further than that. My head was pounding violently, and the fluids packed inside it all blended together until nothing made sense. It was just about to settle, yet it had been smashed and melted in the blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape.
前原さん、もしもし？
はい。
Oishi-san lit yet another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over for that long?
私、知ってる限りのことを話したつもりです。お返しに、今度は前原さんの話を聞かせてもらってもいいですよね。
My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender, and I couldn't think.
ほらほら、また黙り込む。もし誤解があるようなら先に解いておきたいんですがね。私は別にあなたが犯人だなんて思っちゃいないんです。
Oishi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile.
あの晩、 あなたたち4人が西宮殿に忍び込んだことは知っています。
Apparently, the whole goddamn country thinks we have, or knows that we have.
次の日にはもう村の知る人は誰でも知る噂になってましたからね。それ自体は不法侵入として問われるべきことですが、問題はそれじゃない。そこで何があったかなんです。忍び込んだ人間が次々と犠牲になるような何があったのか。
何もなかったです。
As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there, but I knew it didn't matter anymore.
本当に何もなかったんですか？だって現にこうして中に入った人たちが次々と犠牲になってるんですよ。しかも扉の鍵を付け替えた村長やリカさんまで犠牲に。それだけの事態を引き起こす何があの中にあったんです。
I was far too tired of keeping quiet about this. Perhaps that was Oishi-san's goal all along, but again, that didn't matter anymore.
大昔に使った拷問道具がたくさんしまってありました。それを高野さんたちと見て回りました。
本当にそれだけ？
本当にそれだけです。
口封じをされるようなとんでもないものが隠してあったんじゃないですか？例えば覚醒剤の山とか消しの秘密工場があったとか、あるいはソ連か中国あたりの拳銃が山ほど積まれていたと。
No, it was quite literally just the torture
不
devices.
審な木箱やコンテナが山積みされてませんでしたか？
And there was nothing as exaggerated as what Oishi-san was hoping for, but I felt like in a way there were plenty of terrible things hidden in there. From the perspective of someone who viewed the storehouse as sacred, whether or not I had seen some crazy things didn't matter in the slightest. The four of us broke the taboo. Punish us. And that should have been what happened.
あの西宮殿に何か秘密があるんじゃないかと思って捜査令状を請求したんですがね。もう空前絶後の妨害工作がありまして、信仰の対象に対する侮辱であり、憲法で定めた信仰の自由をなんたらかんたら。いやもうだから実際に入ったあなたに聞くほかはなかったんですよ。
本当に古い錆びて埃をかぶった拷問道具しかなかったです。他に目立つものなんて何もなかったです。
では富武さんたちが殺されたのは禁忌を破ったからという制裁だけなんですかね。
I didn't have an answer for the only part.
もういちいち隠しませんけどね。あなただけが今日まで被害を免れてるんです。
What?
あなた以外は全員が消えたのに、あなたが無事であなた以外が被害に遭う。どんな違いがあったのか、それが知りたいんです。
There was something wrong with what Oishi-san was oh my fucking god, we have not been talking with Shion this entire time. I don't think we've been talking with Shion. If what Oishi-san is about to say that Shion's been missing for a while as well. Oh fuck. You alone? You alone? What?
ちょっと待ってください。あなただけがってどういう意味ですか？
Unless he's trying to draw out a confession from us saying that Shion also was there, but he saw it, like he was literally the eyewitness, along with the whole fucking, like, world, apparently.
ですから、あなただけが最後の生き残りなんじゃないですか。西宮殿に忍び込んだコソ泥4人組の。
Huh? The only one left alive? Hold on. Shion was still...
あの晩に富武二郎さんと高野美代さんが死に、
Oh no.
翌日園崎紫音さんが失踪しました。
No.
あなただけが無事に今日までを過ごしてるんです。なぜあなただけなのか、私はそれが知りたいと言ってるんです。
シオンが失踪したって？そんなバカな。
I unintentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Tomitake-san died, Takano-san died, and Shion disappeared? When did she disappear? What is this guy talking about?
ありゃ、とっくにご存知だったとばかり。
そんなのは初めて聞いた。シオンが失踪した？いつ？
遡ると 渡流しの次の日に失踪していたことになります。
Going back a bit. Stop saying stuff I don't understand.
園崎紫音さんはその日の気分で親類の家を泊まり歩いたりしますので、所在不明が当たり前なんですよ。学校も気分一つでよく休みますしね。先生も困り果ててました。
そんなことは聞いてない。シオンはいつ失踪したかって聞いてるんだ。
ですから渡流しの次の日です。
Which doesn't add up. The fluids in my body all reversed direction. I lost my sense of balance, and everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared. Then, that night, that phone call. Who was that? She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed that we would do our best to live on and not be erased. Yes, that should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion.
学校は平気で休むし、それを自宅に知らせても取り合ってもらえないから、学校もいちいち電話しない。そんなこんなで、彼女が失踪したことに気づくのに、だいぶ時間がかかったんですよ。
I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed into every pore of my body. It started on my back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When it had completely covered the surface of my skin, it began to worm its way inside my stomach as well.
ほら、覚えてませんか？渡流しの次の日に、私たち図書館でお会いしたでしょう。あの時、シオンさんもいましたよね。あれが最後の目撃なんです。あの後、彼女の所在は確認されてないんです。
そんなバカな。
That day, Oishi-san had only caught me, and Shion bounded away, lying that she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night?
エンジェルモートっていうファミレスのバイトですよね。あの日から無断欠勤です。今日に至るまで全てを無断欠勤してるんです。お店の人も連絡を取ろうにも取れず困りきってましたよ。
そんなバカな。
状況証拠だけですがね。図書館でお別れしてからバイト先に向かうまで、この間に失踪したと考えるのが妥当でしょうね。
Right after Shion ran away without me? So we avoided
ご
death?
存じなかったみたいですね。なら、先に話せばもっと話が早かったかな。もう、これでご理解いただけたでしょう。あとはあなただけなんです。あなただけが西宮殿に忍び込んだ4人の生き残りなんです。
It couldn't be. It just couldn't be.
次に何か起こるとすれば、それはあなたなんです。前原さん、どうかご理解を。
It can't be. It can't be. It can't be. Shion had already disappeared? That couldn't be. It couldn't be. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She was going to call me again today. And that was Shion on the phone. It was from Shion.
シオンさんはとっくに失踪してるんです。次はあなたなんですよ。
Then who was on the phone those past nights? Okay, I fucking get it.
そんなバカな。
Damn. We just lost our shit, apparently. I do want to know, though. Who were we talking to? Unless, she just ran away and that was, that. Which is a possibility, I won't completely rule that one out. I lay down on the couch and stayed there dazed for a while. My mind was completely blank and I couldn't think about anything for more than a few seconds. There was a note in my house saying that Mom and Dad would be home late and that I should have some ramen or something for dinner. Ah, yes, it's always great whenever the parents are out of the house. Yeah, we're definitely more vulnerable to disaster at this point. I can make it whenever I got hungry, but I had no appetite, so I just stared blankly at the ceiling without eating anything. The hands of the clock were already pointing at 10. Would I get another phone call like that today? Even though Shion had already disappeared? Would she still call me? Where were they calling from, and who were they? The more I thought about it, the more I started to tremble. I even thought about just disconnecting the phone line. I want the phone to ring. I want somebody to call us and tell us about their day. If I had been thinking a little less logically, I really would have done it too. Hold on, Keiichi, my bro. Oishi-san admitted it himself, didn't he? That Shion went missing a lot. Couldn't she have just gone to relatives that Oishi-san didn't know about and have been there ever since? Shion and I were both being targeted by somebody, so it wouldn't be strange to think that she went somewhere she usually didn't in order to hide. That must have been why Oishi-san couldn't locate her, and why he labeled her a disappearance. Yeah, that had to be it. Shion hadn't disappeared at all. Then my right hand moved of its own volition and slapped me on the cheek. Its cold sting let me calm down a little.
都合よく考えすぎるなよ、前原圭一。
I knew I didn't want to admit that she had disappeared. Admitting it would mean that something terrifying was definitely happening. Well, yeah, something definitely is terrifyingly happening here, man. Like, obviously, I just needed to figure out whether Shion was on the phone or not. Or the one on the phone. Would I ask her if she was actually Shion? That seemed like an incredibly absurd thing to do.
でも、逃げるな、圭一。
You know, if she does call, whoever she is, if it really is Shion or not, I think we should, follow along with her scheme, see what, if she could catch on to the fact that we know. If the person on the other end still believed that I thought she was Shion, then that gave me a tiny advantage. Casually, completely casually, I would listen to what she had to say and fend her off. I would tear the skin off the monster. It would definitely be really scary for me. However, as the last survivor of the people who went into the storehouse that night, this was my duty to perform. Still then, who would call me and pretend to be Shion? I may have only heard her over the phone, but her voice shouldn't be that easy to replicate. That was definitely Shion's voice. It sounded just like her. It could have only been Shion. Come on, phone, ring, damn it. There was someone, though, wasn't there? Someone who sounded just like Shion. Yeah, weren't we talking about this like 10 episodes ago? The fact that she has the same voice actor as another main character? Mion. Who else could have done this? At this point, seriously, after all this time, all those little things that didn't quite make sense about Mion until now overwhelmed my mind. Like being questioned about sneaking into the ritual storehouse, and how she shook the ladder while spouting curses. Who else could have... Why though? Why would Mion... I thought back to the things about the Sonozaki family that I had heard from Oishi-san and Shion. Mion was always entangled in the incidents, in a position where she was omnipotent. Some of that information included things that Shion had told me after she disappeared. I madly scratched at my head. Courage, give me the courage! Just a little bit of courage to pick up the phone. I know it will ring tonight. It would be so easy to run away. That, though, would be the same as making it easy for them to erase me. I cannot run. I must stand up and face it. After all, the next sacrifice would definitely be me. I was sure Shion would use tricky words to try and trap me. Be careful, be careful. I'm scared. I don't want to do this, Yeah, I get it. And phone? Yep, there it is. That good old 10 p.m. phone call. At that point, it rang. The phone rang, and I didn't know where the call was coming from. Shion had disappeared. Disappeared a long time ago. Disappeared the night after Watanagashi. Yet, until today, she had been calling me like nothing happened. Now again tonight, the people that had disappeared, their corpses simply hadn't been found. And I really didn't think they were alive. So if it really was Shion on the other end, then did that mean she was calling me from another world? Of course that couldn't be. A living being was calling me, pretending to be Shion. Shion was long gone, and yet as though she were alive and well. The phone continued its incessant ringing. I didn't want to pick it up if I didn't have to. I had just concluded, though, that not doing so wouldn't solve anything. Then what would I do after I answered it? Would I immediately declare she wasn't Shion and ask who she was? Alternatively, would I pretend I was still fooled and try to grab her by the tail?
それが一番安全かもしれないよな。
Yeah, I'm down with that idea. It's more dramatic and action-packed, if you will. What I was most afraid of was what the person on the phone would do when she realized I knew she wasn't Shion. However, as long as I continued to let her think I was fooled, she wouldn't do anything extreme, right? If I just make sure to be careful, that should be the safest option. Like, we don't have to get the jump on her tonight, you know? I've made up my mind. I'll answer the phone. Once I do that, I'll talk to her as if nothing happened. That wasn't all I'd do this time, though. I'd scope her out. Who was she? What was she thinking? And what was she after? Why was she doing this? Was she really the one who killed Tomatake-san and Takano-san? What happened to the mayor? What happened to Rika-chan and Soroko? We could literally just ask, hey, you want to hang out? Stick together, brothers in arms type of thing. I reached out for the receiver, my arm trembling. There were too many things I wanted to know, too many things I wanted to ask. I was scared. I should start by picking up the phone. Pick it up, Keiichi. Pick it up!
もしもし。
Oh, how relieved I would have been if it hadn't been a call from Shion.
あ、ケイちゃんですか？私です。シオンです。
My momentary, convenient, and above all fleeting prediction was ripped into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't help shaking at this point. Get ready for this.
電話、なかなか出なかったんで、お留守かと思って切ろうとしてたんですよ。
Sorry, we had to have like a fucking 5-minute long conversation with ourselves.
ごめん。ちょっとお風呂に入っててさ。
それでも、ご家族の方が電話を取りませんか？ひょっとして、ケイちゃんの家、今ご両親はお留守なんですか？
I failed. I let her in on a fatal piece of information that I was currently the only one at my house.
いや、別に留守ってわけじゃ。そんなことより聞いたか？リカちゃんとサトコの件。
いえ、結局あの後どうなったんですか？見つかったんですか？
ああ、見つからなかった。
ケイちゃん、どうか気を落とさないで。
If Oishi-san hadn't let me know, then I might have allowed myself to shed a tear or two at Shion's considerate words. Instead, now that it has come to this, I couldn't take her words at face value. This person on the other end of the receiver, the more perfect a Shion they were, the more my blood curdled in fear.
リカちゃんとサトコはさらわれたんだよな。
はい、それは間違いないでしょうね。
Just how cruel and grave a meaning did those words hold? Their weight astonished me, and then a moment later, I was overcome with numbness and felt like I would pass out. I had asked if Rika-chan and Sadako had been kidnapped. Shion, in turn, had answered that there wasn't much doubt. That cruel meaning behind her words.
リカちゃんとサトコは。いや、ごめん。村長さんはさらわれてどうなったと思う？まだ生きてるんだろうか？
What happened to Rika-chan and Sadako after they were kidnapped? That's what I wanted to ask, but I frantically caught myself. What if she had given that question a terrifying response in such a way to sound like it had nothing to do with her? I was scared of that, so I immediately brought up the mayor. That said, however much I talked— Oh, what the fuck? Oh, well, I wasn't given the opportunity to really finish that sentence.
おいおい、そんなにあっさり。
人間をさらって、その状態を維持するのってとても大変なことだと思います。人質にするんでもない限り、用が済んだら殺しちゃうのが一番合理的じゃないかと。
The world started to bend so much I almost lost my balance. The scenery in my eyes whirled around and around like the hands of a clock, and tried to swallow me whole from below. I frantically put a hand on the wall to support myself. A moment later, a severe nausea welled up within me. How was she saying such things so lightly?
殺しちゃうって、そんなにあっさり。
Oh, this track here. What the fuck?
人の命を何だと思ってやがるんだ。
恐ろしいことだとは思いますが、多分そうではないかと。
If the mayor was killed, then did that mean the same happened to Rika-chan and Soroko? No, that couldn't be. They weren't some random old man. It was Rika-chan. It was Soroko. They couldn't kill them so readily.
リカちゃまとサトコちゃんも同じだと思った方がいいでしょうね。
Huh, I think we lost it. Those were the words I wanted to hear the least, and I fought them back with a scream of my own, even though it wouldn't change anything. Still, I still couldn't help but scream. This time the tears flowed. I'd been confronted with the most horrific outcome that I'd been trying to avoid considering ever since last night, and I cried. There was no longer any doubt that it was my fault. I killed them. I killed Rika-chan and Soroko. I succumbed to the weakness of my own heart and confessed everything to Rika-chan. And that's why they were killed. That meant I killed them. When Rika-chan looked at me with those innocent eyes, if only I hadn't given in. Even my voice gave out, and yet still I cried. And cried.
ケイちゃん、どうか気を確かに。
Rika-chan and Soroko, they've been killed. We couldn't even find their remains. I would never be allowed to even apologize to their faces. If that was to be my punishment, then how brutal a punishment it was. I think Shion tried to comfort me, but I didn't hear any of it.
そんなことでどうするんですか？
I don't know. Makes me feel better on the inside, I guess.
次に狙われるのは確実に私かケイちゃんなんですよ。お願いですから、しっかりしてください。お願いします。お願いしますから。
Shion was shouting, imploring me with a voice that sounded like tears were in her eyes. However, I was coming to hate the sound of that voice more and more. This Shion killed them. I had no doubts that this person killed them. Why? Why?
どうしてだよ。どうして人をさらったり殺したりするんだよ。たたりだかなんだか知らないが、人の命ってのはそんなに安いのかよ。あっさり消したり殺したり。
ええ、全くです。悪魔ですよね。
I felt like crushing the receiver in my hand. How long did this person plan on acting like it was someone else's problem? There was magma in the pit of my stomach, and yet it felt like it was going to erupt at any moment.
なあ、シオン、教えてくれ。どうしてこのひなみ沢では綿流しの夜に人が死ななければならないことになってしまったんだ。
それは私が知りたいです。
もうダム計画との戦いは終わったんだぞ。なのにどうしてまだたたり足りないんだ。どうしてだよ。どうして。理由があるなら言ってみろよ。
I was incoherent at this point. My emotions had broken through the dam inside of me, rushing forth, and I couldn't stop them. These were not simple questions. This was an interrogation. Shion herself hadn't realized it yet. It was just too funny. It was so funny that I couldn't stop crying.
ケイちゃんの気持ち、私もよくわかります。ダム闘争はとっくの昔に終わったんです。なのに毎年お社様のたたりという名の殺人と失踪が繰り返されている。なぜ？どうしてなんですか？全然関係ない人もいた。たたられるのに不相応な人だっていたのに、どうして？どうして？
それを俺が聞いてるんだ。
それを私だって知りたいんですよ。
Both our ragged breaths could be heard over the phone.
いいですか？お社様のたたりなんて非現実的なものは初めから存在しません。ケイちゃんの言う通り、村の何者かがお社様のたたりというもっともらしい大義名分を利用して綿流しのたびに殺しと失踪を繰り返しているんです。奴らは狡猾でした。たたりを都合よく利用して村の旧敵を毎年2人ずつ消し去るシステムを構築していったんです。そしてこのシステムで今年は高野さんたちが殺された。
じゃあ2人で十分じゃねえかよ。どうして村長やリカちゃんやサトコまで殺されなくちゃならないんだよ。それに俺は過去のことは今さらどうでもいいんだ。リカちゃんとサトコがなぜ殺されなくちゃならなかったのか、どうしてなんだ。 サトコには打ち上げですらないんだぞ。どうしてサトコまで。
Yeah, honestly, that seems to be the most vague thing here. All we have to go on is that she's close to Rika-chan, and, well, I guess Rika could have, carried the story over to her, but Sadako, according to Mion, is cursed.
どうしてなんだ。
And that's all we know. A silence fell between us. I was digging that music, though. Shion didn't answer for a while.
ケイちゃん、もういじめないでください。
A sob. Was Shion crying?
私だって何が何だかわからないんです。最後殿に忍び込んだあの晩から全てが変わってしまった。
It was the same for me. As I listened to Shion's bitter weeping, I could feel my agitation subsiding.
あの晩、高野さんたちが死んだと聞き、耳を疑いました。そしてすぐに気づいたんです。今度は自分が狙われる立場になったんだって。忍び込んだのは私たち4人。私とケイちゃんだけが都合よく許してもらえるわけがない。そう思った時、それがどれだけ心細くて恐ろしいことだったか、ケイちゃんにはわかりますよね。
There was nothing fake about her words. She'd even understood how I felt.
だから私、君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。私はみんなが入ってはいけないという最後殿に面白半分な気持ちで踏み入ってしまいました。いけないことだとは分かっていましたが、本当に面白半分な気持ち、ちょっとした探検気分のつもりだったんです。一緒に入った高野さんたちはその後すぐに殺されてしまいました。それもあんなむごい最後。あの日から
That's not true.
いつ私も襲われるのではないかと怯えています。
Tomitake didn't really come inside, did he? Poked his head in, and he's the one who picked the lock, but he ain't go in.
君吉のおじいちゃんしか助けてくれる人がいません。だからおじいちゃん、助けてって。君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そしてにっこり笑って、シオンちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら鬼隠しになんかなるものかって、本当に笑いながら任せなさいって。
Shion cried bitterly, recalling the beloved mayor's death. It was such a sad voice that none who heard it could prevent it from twisting their hearts. Again, I did let my emotions take over and go off at her. Shion was in the same situation as me. She should have been my one and only comrade. My heart pounded. My other self, deep within my mind, whispered to me, "Don't forget, Keiichi Maibara. Don't forget about the mayor. On the morning after Watanagashi, he was told of Takano-san and Tomitake-san's deaths over the phone and committed to a meeting that evening. He went to a hospital appointment. He didn't tell his family. He'd only made it back just in time for the meeting. He went straight to the assembly hall, and that's what Oishi-san said."
いつ村長に打ち明けたんだよ。ごめんな、シオン。悲しい気持ちのところに追い打ちをかけるようで、シオンは打ち明けたんだよな。君吉のおじいちゃん、つまり村長に。
はい。
いつ打ち明けたんだよ。
I'd begun to get scared of saying it aloud after hearing her sad voice. I wasn't saying it was contradictory, though. Besides, if there was a contradiction, then I wanted Shion to explain it to me.
村長さんは重い痔を患ってて、病院にかかっていたという話は知ってるか？
ケイちゃん、それが何か？
答えてくれ。知らないなら知らないと答えればいい。
There was a momentary silence. Then after stammering a few times, she replied,
痔だったのは知ってます。座るときとか辛そうでしたから。
病院に通ってたんだ。どこの病院かは知ってるよな。
ごめんなさい。それはちょっと知りませんけど。でもケイちゃん、それが一体何の？
Shion didn't know what hospital the mayor went to. That meant it was impossible for her to have gone all the way to the hospital to confess everything. Since she didn't know his destination, then she obviously couldn't have seen him on the train either. If there was any other chance for her to contact him, it would have been after he came to Hinamizawa. The train, however, had been delayed, and he only got back right before the meeting was about to start. He didn't have time. There wouldn't have been enough time for him to listen to Shion spill the beans.
単刀直入に聞きたいんだ。シオンはいつ村長に打ち明けたんだ。どこでいつ大雑把でいいから教えてほしいんだ。
ケイちゃん、なんでそんなことを。
Her sob pierced into my ears. I was taken by the illusion that I was bullying her. Even so, I'll say it. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. Please prove to me that you're the real Shion.
ありえないんだよ。村長が失踪した日、朝から消えるまで、シオンには接触できる機会はありえないんだ。
そんな。
村長は朝一で誰にも内緒の大学病院へ一人で診察に出かけた。シオンは今この病院を知らないと言った。だから帰ってくるまで村長と接触することはできないはずだ。そうだろう。帰りの電車が事故で遅れたので自宅に帰ってきたのは会合の始まる直前だった。つまり会合が始まるまでの時間にも打ち明ける時間的余裕はないんだ。
I heard Shion repeating her weak sobs. That sort of feminine voice automatically ripped into my heart. It was so painful for me to say it.
シオンも一緒に会合に出たのか？そして会合の席上で打ち明けたのか？ここで打ち明けなきゃもう時間がないもんな。村長は帰宅途中で失踪するんだから。
Shion went to the meeting, didn't she? Did she or didn't she? Thought there was a bug floating around. It caught my eye. The question was so simple to answer, but she didn't give me an immediate response.
実は会合に
あの日、シオンが行くと言ったバイトすら、君はもっと端的に言おう。君は俺と一緒に行った図書館以降、誰にも目撃されていない。
ケイちゃん、
園崎シオンは綿流しの翌日に失踪したんだ。
Oh, we're going right out and saying it, boys. The other end fell silent as the grave. It was so quiet that it was like the phone cord had been cut. I couldn't sense anyone there.
大石さんは君がすでに失踪していると言っているんだ。でもシオンはこうして毎晩俺に電話をかけてきてくれただろ。
Bro, we're just jumping right on it. Why is she still sobbing? Shion's sobs were torturing me. Still, I'm pretty sure I haven't said anything wrong.
頼む、シオン。
It's like a fucking
俺が
recording.
言ったことが間違ってるならそうだと言ってくれ。シオン、頼むから。
Come on.
シオン、お前は村長に会ってなんかないんだ。もし会ったとしたなら。
If Shion ever did have the chance to meet with the mayor on that day, then that meant
村長が会合を終えた後、すなわち失踪する直前、もしくは失踪してからしかありえないんだ。
Alright. I feel like she's gonna start laughing. Uh-oh. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh. Uh-oh. I stood there dazed for a while until I realized that she had hung up on me. Well, I called that one, I guess. I didn't really mean to, but I kinda did. Holy fuck. God damn. What does this mean, though? So I guess this means that Shion really did disappear, huh? That was no Shion that we just saw. That was no Shion. Tough call. Yeah. Nice achievement unlock there. Okay. Another scrapbook piece here. Let's see what we got this time. The problem with twins. This is not limited to just Hinamizawa, but in Oishi village especially, the three families detested giving birth to twins as successors. The long-term dictatorship built on the precarious balance of the three families must have feared collapsing under the weight of internal strife from things like family quarrels. According to the literature, if twins were born, they had to be cold. With that, the very fact that both the Sonozaki family successor, Mion, and her twin Shion are alive is in itself deeply interesting. Perhaps the current leader, Oryo, is sympathetic. Of course, the twins were not cared for equally, and as the heir, Mion received special treatment. From what I've heard, despite the two looking exactly the same on the outside, the talent lies solely with Mion. My own observations of the two of them don't leave me with that impression. Tradition dictates that the leader of the Sonozaki family is said to inherit a demon, and they tattoo a magnificent one onto his or her back. Alright, some fucking Yakuza shit. And according to the tradition, there's an extremely high possibility that Mion has such a tattoo on her back. From what I've heard, there is apparently a magnificent demon tattooed on Oryo's back as well. Then I wonder what sort of tattoo belongs to the heir Mion. I really want to see her back. That's a weird statement to make out of context, but we do indeed have context here, so I guess it works. I guess it indeed works. Alright, what's this next one here? At the Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Alright, wonder what's going on here. I do indeed wonder. Reserved for the day, Suzu Mahjong Parlor. Clatter clack.
クラちゃん、あんたが一番遅いよ。若い人はみんな揃ってる。
じゃあお母さん、すみませんね。
She handed over a convenience store bag with a carton of cigarettes in it to the old lady who owned the Mahjong parlor, and she shrewdly made herself scarce. She was used to this by now.
おいさん、お疲れ様っす。
なんだ、みんな真面目に待ってたんですか？さんまでもやってりゃよかったのに。
Sorry there, Oishi-san. Everyone sitting at the mahjong tables in the small parlor were Oishi's subordinates, and there were no tiles laid out anywhere.
皆さん、連日の不眠不休の捜査、本当にお疲れ様です。
よし!
Energetic responses filled the parlor. Already it had lost the atmosphere of a place of entertainment.
状況は芳しくありません。所長が園崎系議員の恫喝に屈したそうです。近日中に高野殺しはお隣の県警さんに譲り、村長たちの失踪は行方不明扱いで生活課に委ねるようです。
That damn upstart chief. The veterans in the room cursed him.
請求した令状もすべて却下されました。課長からは園崎家界隈には近づくなとまで言われています。いやいや困ったもんです。ちなみに私には来週から警視庁への研修命令が出るそうです。その後は余った有給を伊豆で消化しろとまで言われています。いや、そういうのも悪くないですね。
He heard a few dry laughs. It wasn't anything to laugh about, but that was all they could do.
いつもそうですが、事件と車のキーの閉じ込めはよく似ています。車なら修理業者を呼んで扉をこじ開ける。事件なら、熊ちゃん、図面を。
Kumagai flipped over the whiteboard. On the back was a map of the Sonozaki premises made with magnets.
私もずーっとこの商売をやってます。勘には自信があるつもりですがね。退職金が欲しい方は、私が10数える間に席を外してください。
Oishi began to count to 10, and everyone counted along with him. It was their famous 10-count resolution.
9、10! ああ、誰も出てかないよ。皆さん、ご家族はもっと大切にしてくださいよ。
Yeah. Everybody laughed uproariously, cheering things up.
各自、手元の資料を確認。監視カメラの所在と資格を叩き込んでください。 熊ちゃんは指揮者で待機。非常時は私に代わって指揮をお願いしますよ。小宮山君は突入 A 班、敦君は突入 B 班を指揮。監視班は1から8まで所定の位置で監視を。盆地君はタイムテーブルを厳守。書に怪しまれないようローテを管理してください。さて、待機中の班が一番大仕事ですよ。課長に私の所在を聞かれたらとぼけてください。ゲストのエスコート役は私がやります。きっと会場へ連れて行きますので、皆さん気長に待っててください。
落ちるっすかね、前原圭一は。
私の見たところじゃ、明日明後日には行けそうですよ。コロッとね。
Well, I mean, he does have a lot of information. Even more so now. It would have been nice if we actually told him about the fact that we've been talking with quote-unquote Shion every night on the phone. Detective Watanagashi, I think we've gotten all the tips, boys. We must really be coming to the end of the game here. Oh, so close. Uh-oh.
放っておいてやれ。友達が行方不明になったんだ。気の毒にな。
Normally my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did.
うちの圭一もしばらくの間学校を控えた方がいいんじゃないのか？警察が何とかするまで外出を控えた方が安全だと思うぞ。
そうね。もしもってことに比べたら、学校を何日かお休みにするくらい。
それよりもこんな物騒な事態になったら学校なんか休校にするのが筋じゃないのか？まったく。学校の先生方は人の子を何だと思ってるんだ。
Yeah, I've been asking that throughout my entire educational career, really. As a student, I should clarify. Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time and date, myself, I really had no interest in anything. This feeling, it was like a dead fog in my mind. I felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication.
圭一、学校の勉強はどうなんだ?
Oh, I wonder. Alright, we're gonna save it here. And, well, next time I guess we'll, I don't know if we're gonna confront Mion or what's gonna happen in that case, because that wasn't Shion. I'm pretty sure that was Mion on the other line, on the other side of the phone, I mean. And, oh boy. I don't know what's gonna happen at this point. I really don't. But I'm excited to see what happens next regardless. Thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, comments. I'm always reading comments. And, you know, if you got a good question or something to throw out because I'm stupid and I miss things or say things incorrectly, you know, sometimes I'll feature them. Most of the time I won't because I'm forgetful. That is a thing I need to bring back though, is featuring more comments in episodes. It's always a fun time. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.